Hello, friend. I'd like to share a thought with you that has revolutionized my way of thinking. Share it with our church a few years ago. Dr. Dennis Kinlaw, Hebrew scholar, said one day as he was studying the Old Testament, he realized that for the Jewish person, God's chosen people, they conceptualize their world different in the East than we do here in the Western world. You see, in Hebrew, the word for left is north, and the word for right is south. So you can kind of picture yourself just kind of turning sideways, and left is north, right is south. In addition to that, they pictured themselves as facing east, the place of the rising sun. By the way, we unknowingly have carried that over into our speech, even though it's not part of our thinking, because we use the word orient. In other words, to align ourselves by a point of reference, the word orient means east. But we typically don't think of facing east. We think of kind of following the sun and kind of facing west as we go. But anyway, once we understand that God's people in this Eastern world, they looked at life in a way that was facing east as they're going west, we realize that we don't look into the future, we don't face the future, we don't walk into the future. Listen to me on this one. We back into the future, facing east, but going west. One hesitant step after another, hear me on this, unable to really see where we're going, right? None of us really knows what tomorrow is going to hold, or even today. So the good news is, though, that even as we back into an uncertain, unknown future, here's the good news. We hold the hand of the one that knows the future as well as he holds the past. The great I am, the Almighty God. Doesn't that make sense? As I back into the future, I can't see where I'm going, but God does, and he has control of the future. Usually we go through a difficult time. We have no idea what God's up to. And we would say things like, God, if you just let me know what you're doing here, just show me what's going on. Please, if there's a lesson for me to learn, please show to me. But we have no idea what he's up to. Hence the term, hindsight is 2020, right? And most of the time we're just saying, God, just show me what you're doing. Just tell me what you want me to do. So we don't walk into the future. We back into the future, which kind of leads us into our circumstances today, right? Don't you wish that you knew what God was up to here in allowing this huge event that has our entire world in chaos, and none of us knows what tomorrow might bring for us personally, for us as a country, as a world? Well, maybe someday we'll understand it better, but that time for us to understand what God's doing is not now. For now, the best thing we can do is to be sure we are holding on firmly onto God's hand as he leads us into this future where none of us has been before. Listen to these words as we follow the leading of God. He says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Great verse. Isn't it a great verse? 3 simple principles that just remind us of how we back into an uncertain future, but God holds that future. First of all, he says peace is available. So he says, in me you might have peace. That word peace, of course, doesn't refer to peaceful circumstances, but it means the calmness of spirit in knowing that I am a child of God and he has everything in his complete control. Number 2, trouble is unavoidable. He says, in this world you will have trouble. That word trouble, it means anguish. It means distress. Can any of us identify with that concept? I think most of us can at some point or another. But here's the good news. Victory is inevitable. He says, take heart. I have overcome the world. Christ has overcome the world by breaking the bonds of sin and death on the cross and evidencing that in the empty tomb, returning to his throne in heaven, from which he is now ruling over his church. And one day he's going to return to put down all injustice and all authorities and powers. I don't know about you, but this is tremendously encouraging to me. Even though we have no idea what God is up to, we can back into the uncertainties of this crisis we're in, knowing with the strong assurance we are being led by the strong hand of Almighty God, the one who has told us that peace is available, trouble is unavoidable, but victory is inevitable. Let's rest in that reality today. From my heart to yours, grace and peace to you, my friend. Bye-bye.